Assalamu alaikum and thank you for joining us once again. In a hadith narrated by our Imams, we are told that the person who safeguards his reputation is respected. The person's honor is central to his or her social standing within a family, community, and of course in the workplace. We are told growing up that we must act and behave in a certain manner lest our reputations are ruined. This is particularly true for women, but why? In today's episode, we will look at the reputation of Lady Zainab and how important it was in the spread of Shia Islam's message. How to keep a good reputation. What does it mean to have a good reputation?
I think to have a good reputation is to stay within your values and not to go out of line to what you've been taught and what you've been told. Like, to keep that respect for yourself and for your family. I think that's what we've been taught when reputation is brought up.
I mean, when reputation is brought up, it's about how other people perceive you and your family and your status within the community. Having a good reputation, I mean, is about being in a good family structure, dressed well, modestly, speaking modestly. It's all those things that link up to make you give you a good reputation.
But then how long does it take for us to build that reputation? It takes us many, especially women. We're talking about young women. We're not talking about men. But
it takes all our lives.
It does, isn't it? It doesn't stop. But then how easily is it for people to ruin someone's reputation?
I think there's a very thin line, because people in communities and societies that put ideas on what reputation should be.
Yeah.
And like in my family, whatever's halal is halal, whatever's haram is haram. What other people say doesn't really matter to me. My relationship is between me and God.
Exactly.
I don't really care for other people's opinions. Like, if that's what they want to believe, then fine. But people will come up with their own ideas anyway.
I think that reputation nowadays links, even back then, it linked back to the traditions and culture of your community. And I think that's where it went wrong, because you've got people who are telling you that something is either halal or haram, which is the way of Islam. It's the way of Allah. But then you've also got the people who are telling you something is wrong and something is right.
Yeah.
But using the words out of the norm and norm.
Yeah. Definitely. I think the other thing that is important to note for people where they get confused is strength of character or character and reputation. Character is who you are. Reputation is what people think of you.
Yes.
Character is when you are true to yourself and things that will not change. Reputation can change within one day, literally.
Yeah.
You just need someone with a lot of influence to say something good or bad about you, and that's it. That's literally how easy it is. So I think speaking about nowadays and young women and how they're affected with their reputation, it's very important in our communities as well. Everyone cares about their reputation. But then I've seen personal experiences of friends whose reputation was shattered so easily within just gossip. It's unfortunately, it usually just happens when a relationship breaks down, and let it be two people who are engaged or two people who are married. As soon as that relationship breaks down, the two sides will fuel into the arguments and into the reputation, even making up stuff just to make themselves look like the victim.
Yeah.
And that way they ruin other person's reputation. It's got nothing to do with that person's character, but they're still ruining, and they're doing it on purpose. So it is very important to have a good reputation, definitely, and it all goes back to back, and it is. But unfortunately, now we live in the day and age where it's become something that unfortunately anyone can crush so easily, and it's not as respected as much. Unfortunately,
I think family reputation does weigh heavily on a woman's shoulders, like especially in the family, because as young girls and women, we get told like reputation is so important. You're holding your family's value, especially when they get married. You're taking your family's name to another family, and whatever you do represents your family. In life, whatever you do represents your family, and that there is a strong, I don't want to say burden, but it is a lot of responsibility that families do put on, and it's kind of like repeated in their ears, like what you're going to do. People are going to talk about it, and you're going to ruin your family's reputation, especially if the family is well known or it's a big family. You're associated. Whatever you do is affecting your family.
Whereas the guy wouldn't have that same burden. They could be siblings. They could even be twins and the guy wouldn't carry the same burden as the girl does, which is really unfair, because girls have already so much to struggle with and so much to deal with, let alone just carrying a burden of a whole family's name and reputation that's been built for years and years and years on her shoulders.
I mean, I would say that generally, as a whole, reputation is heavily weighed on women more than men. And I'm talking about in every community. But when we come down to the Muslim community, it holds so much more value. The girl's reputation it will ruin not just hers, but can ruin everyone's. Whereas the boy, he has more flexibility to do whatever he wants without being questioned for it. But girls, yes. And I think that's something that's wrong with using the word reputation nowadays. But I also think that girls now are choosing to rebel because they don't want to care about what anyone else says. But that is pushing them to a place where they don't want to really be. And I think that when it comes down to Muslim women nowadays, they've got this responsibility, but they have to make sure that they are abiding by the rules. They have to make sure that they're still trying to succeed in life. They're still trying to make their family happy. They're still trying to do all the other things that men are trying to do, but also make sure that they are a perfect person. And that is difficult because the smallest thing can change someone's perception of you. And it may be just by the way you speak or a word that you might say. And it's just the smallest thing. But even if it wasn't about you doing anything, so if someone else says something about you, like you said, and that plays a huge role, especially if the person has a great influence.
And I think that's why girls are being more rebellious nowadays, isn't it? Because they've realized no matter what we do, no matter how hard we try, we can get crushed so easily with just someone's word, so easily. Then what's the point? What's the point of trying to please all these people?
I think it's wrong to put that much emphasis on reputation, because
that's the thing.
Especially younger girls, they're getting told like, oh, if you don't have a good reputation, you don't do this, you're not marriageable enough, you're not this and that, if you're not like this. And sometimes the things that people are saying it's not in line with halal haram. That's not what God like telling us to do. You're going above and beyond like what's meant to be, and you're making it difficult. And then people find like, oh, anything I do is wrong.
Do you know what's the one thing that Allah does kind of strain on in the Quran is how to protect people's reputation. If you, for example, know something about someone, protect them. You do not need to go and tell other people. And so Allah has given us that support. Allah has given us that security. But people, this is why I try to mix it up. I try to explain that it's more about culture and tradition rather than in halal and haram, because people aren't caring so much about what the religion says about what Allah thinks about it. It's how they feel, is so that they can feel like they are the better person. And that is not a good thing. Everyone wants to feel victimized, and it's not fair.
I think playing the role of a victim is in fashion. It's definitely, because when you are the victim, then when you move on and you want to let's say a couple breaks up, let it be, even this goes both the females and the boys. And it's not just always the boys who would crush the girl's reputation so easily and everyone would believe it and everyone would distribute whatever they said just so the guy can marry again, because he'd be like, look, I was the victim. But sometimes the girls make up a lot of things and lie about how the guy used to treat them just so they look like the victim. And it's just really sad, because yes, you might look like a victim in front of a couple of people in the community, but what about between yourself? How do you sleep peacefully at night knowing that you've crushed someone's life so easy within just a few words? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching, because it will come back to you. Sooner or rather later, it will. Allah is very just. And this is the problem. If we lived in a world that was just, in a society where there is mercy, then maybe the meaning reputation meant more, because we would all be so much more merciful towards each other. But nowadays we don't do that. If I see you doing something wrong, tomorrow the whole community will know about it. This is we have aunties sitting working 12-hour shifts on the phone from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. gossiping literally from one person to another. They pray, they fast, but they still do that. But why? But why would you do that? What satisfaction do you get out of it? This is the problem in our communities nowadays. And yet there's so much emphasis on young girls, so much pressure, and no wonder they become more rebellious, because they see maybe their own mom sitting there gossiping all day long and back-chatting about other women and girls. But then she would sit there and be like, don't you ever do that, because, you know, this is our reputation online. It's just, it's so hypocritical.
I think nowadays, the Muslim community, or I mean, not just nowadays, I mean, even back then, the Muslim community do judge girls very harshly when it comes down to interactions between male and female. And especially, whereas nowadays there is more flexibility in the workplace and in schools, universities, colleges, there will always be a situation where they might need a female and a male to speak. But if there was someone outside of this kind of watching from behind, they will see that as something is definitely going on that's haram straight away. And that isn't fair, I don't think, because I've been in so many situations where I was shopping with my brother and I was accused of something happening with him, and it was a horrible feeling. It was very, very horrible. And like I have mentioned before, I work somewhere where it's very male dominated, and it's a struggle to be able to work in that kind of environment without being judged as, something might go wrong, or I'm not safe in such an environment. But that's not true. As in, I've had all the respect that I need. Everyone knows their boundaries, which is absolutely amazing. But because someone from the outside will see that, they've got this negativity just running through their head, and it's like they just want it. They want something bad to be there, something bad to be happening. And it's not fair, because when you start talking about other people's daughters like that, or other people's sisters, the same thing will happen to your daughter. The same thing will happen to your sister. Kama tudin tudan. Karma is real. It does exist. Yeah. And it's not fair. And people need to understand that we are in a time where there is more of a flexibility. People they do have more freedom, but everybody has been raised well. And if not raised well, that is their problem. But those who have, you should not be talking about them, unless you see something. And subhanallah, Allah has, this is me paraphrasing, in the Quran, he said, in regards to if you see someone doing something that they shouldn't, you need 4 witnesses. 4 witnesses. Allah is fair, Allah is just. So who are we as people to judge others and make up things that aren't actually happening? And it frustrates me. It definitely gets me heated up when I actually start thinking about it. Because I remember having a time where I was 12 years old. I was in school, and I was just leaving school, and I lived around the corner, and one of the boys from my class was asking me about the homework because he had missed it because he was in the nursery. And I was just telling him, and a woman called my grandma straight away. We saw your granddaughter. She was walking with a boy. He was laughing. He had his hand in his pocket. And it was just like, why are these things relevant? These things aren't relevant. And I explained to my grandma, I didn't do anything wrong. He was just asking me about the homework. And she said something very smart. She said, Noor, you weren't doing anything, and I know you weren't doing anything wrong, but it's the way people will see you. So do avoid walking with boys outside of the school premises. When they're in school, they're your friends, they're your classmates. When you're outside of school, you know none of them, and you keep walking because people will perceive you like that. As your family, we know you're okay.
We can't deny that reputation is important, nevertheless, of what's going on at the moment in today's society. But back in the days, Shia Islam owes its message to Lady Zainab alayhi salam, because she was the messenger of it. And due to her reputation, her immaculate reputation, pristine reputation of being trustworthy and reliable, and of course, where she's come from and who her grandfather is and her ancestors, that matters as well. But so back then, of course, it matters who you were, and no matter how many people were crushing her reputation as well back in the days, people still saw the truth and saw the light, and that's why they believed her word more and believed her message as she carried it. It might have been the minority at the beginning, but then that increased and spread it because of who she was. And she did not only confirm her message through just words and sermons, but also through her actions.
No, I agree. And the thing that you said is that it was a minority, yet it was still a challenge to those who were fighting her message. So, like you said, the existence of Shia Islam is owed to her. And alhamdulillah wa shukr, without her, we wouldn't be here, not in this state anyway. And I think her reputation had a huge influence on people. And people actually listened to her purely because of her lineage. They were listening to her because they actually knew she was knowledgeable. And we've spoken about her knowledge before. She was, like you said, trustworthy and reliable. And I think nowadays it's what we need to do. We need to make sure that we do have a good reputation so that when our voices should be heard, they are heard.
Yeah, I think like taken from what she went through and her character, like we can put our reputation, like we know how to put ourselves out there so people actually listen to us. And when people, especially when we're talking to non-Muslims, if we show ourselves with a good character and good reputation, people will accept us more and they don't look at us with like
such hate.
Yeah, if you have good akhlaq, people are more likely to be like, oh yes, these Muslims, they're good people.
Yeah.
Considering Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam's lineage, I don't think that it was the only impact that it had, that was an impact on her reputation. I think the way she portrayed herself to other people, the way she was a teacher to other people, she was a role model for other people, and also given that she learned everything from Sayyida Fatima alayhi salam, she was absolutely amazing in carrying that out and trying to carry the message on. I mean, that is great on its own. That's a good enough reputation for me.
I think everything she was taught, she carried herself in the name of Al-Habib alayhi salam, in the name of Islam. And she truly lived by what was halal, what was haram. Like she knew the difference. And that was her character. It didn't sway into culture or anything else. And then people looked at her with respect and admiration because she lived up to her morals and her beliefs. And she truly she spoke about them and she lived up to them. Definitely. And people respect you more if you go with what you say.
Exactly. Instead of preaching all day, all night of what Islam is supposed to be like, if we show it through acts of kindness or gestures or just our actions on day in, day out with different people, that just confirms what the message of Islam is, and that will just leave people in awe because of how beautiful Islam is, because Islam is at the end of a religion of kindness and mercy, more than just sitting there and preaching it.